Welcome to DeVos 2025. We've got a panel of 4 here. I'd like you to each introduce yourself, give you a minute. Give me, your general theme of what you want to talk about, and so people understand your bet.
So I'm Yaniv. I'm the founder and CEO of Meth AI, where we use AI in order to optimize the digestion of cows, allowing farmers to produce much more milk while significantly reducing methane emission, which is today the largest source of carbon emission. So basically, everybody wins. I'm also a researcher at MIT. I've been doing AI for 20 years. Exciting to be here.
Great.
Hey, Davey. Thanks for having us here. So I'm Dusty Stahl, a director of business development at Active Surfaces, a MIT spin-out out in Boston, Massachusetts, where we are manufacturing solar cells that are ultra-thin, flexible, and lightweight. Solar panels really haven't changed much in the form factor in almost 100 years. So we are reinventing what solar panels look like today.
Here. Hi, I'm Dan Kitridge. I run the Bionutrient Food Association. We're a nonprofit focusing on nutrient density, which is the nutritional variation in food. It's massive, 5, 10, 20x, depending on which nutrient, which food you're looking at, which connects directly to soil health, farm viability, nutrition, flavor, human health, etc.
I am Marcus from Planet Wild. Actually, the biggest unused lever for everybody investing in nature protection and nature regeneration right now is storytelling. And we built Planet Wild as an organization that's based around that fact. Within 1 year, we became the fastest growing nature organization on YouTube. And we grew from 12 to 12,000 contributing members. We raised over 2 million already. And we're using these funds to support the work of rewilding pioneers around the globe. And then we tell their stories in engaging videos that have already reached millions online.
Great. Thanks. Yeah. So, Yaniv, cows, methane. People are always skeptical about this. Are cows really the problem?
And also the solution. Because, cows have evolved to eat certain things, and this is not what they eat today. And this is nobody's fault. Farmers let cows eat what makes more sense for them economically speaking, but this causes the cow's digestive system to go out of tune, and they burp quite a bit. And when they burp, they release methane. And methane is, on one hand, a very potent gas in the terms of being greenhouse gas that is 28 times more potent than carbon dioxide. But on the other hand, it represents an energy leak. Because if the energy that is contained in this methane had stayed within the cow's stomach, then the cow would have been able to produce much more milk from it. So the question is, can we actually divert this energy from being emitted to the atmosphere in the form of burps back to the cows to be used in order to create more milk, basically helping everyone? And the answer is yes.
So, keep on eating beef?
I eat beef.
Boy. Okay.
Any cheese?
Great. Dusty. Solar panels we talk about. We've had a lot of horror stories where companies were funded, went bust. What's so unique about what you're doing?
So what we're doing here is that we are reinventing what solar looks like today. When you think about solar on residential, it's really constrained to customers adopting it or putting it out in fields because it's large glass panels. We want to see a future where every surface can become an active surface in which is solar generating, whether it's clothes, to canopies, to space, to automobiles, anything, you name it. What we're doing that's really different is creating this very thin that can integrate to all surfaces.
There's a few startups from MIT that have come up with what you call very flexible solar panels that you can basically cast anywhere, even on your forehead. Can you give a little bit more insight about the technology you're working on so we understand how democratic it can become?
Okay, of course. So the IP that we have is actually spun out of MIT. It's licensed through MIT as an exclusive license. But there are some different flexible forms that what makes and differentiates us is that we have a very CapEx efficient manufacturing process, leveraging roll-to-roll. We have trade secrets of different device stacks that are highly efficient, capable of meeting similar efficiencies of what current silicon panels use today, while still having the form factor of a flexible 4.
Great, thank you. Dan, nutrition, big problem. Lots of people are getting overweight, fast food.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us why nutrient density is so important today? What does it mean?
Yeah, what is nutrient density? So effectively, how you work with the land has a dramatic effect in what is in the food that's harvested. For 400 million years, before God invented farmers, plants were growing just fine without fertilizer, chemicals, etc. Effectively in deep symbiosis with microbes. And when you have a well-functioning microbiome in the soil, among other things, what you have are much higher levels of nutrients in the plants. And so from our data we've collected across multiple continents and many years now, it's a 5 or 10x variation in the minerals and a 20 or 40x variation in the compounds. So it's very dramatic. We have epidemic levels of chronic disease occurring in the population eating what we call now the modern Western diet. And those chronic diseases correlate foundationally to nutritional deficiencies. So as we begin to, work more well with the land, with nature, and effectively increase traditional caliber of food, not only can we facilitate carbon sequestration on scale and have very positive climate impacts, we can also have very positive human health impacts.
So another question to ask here is big agriculture a friend or a foe? How do you democratize this? How do you make this work? You talk about 10x, 20x, whatever. Who are the real beneficiaries of this at the end of the day? Is it big ag?
It really seems to be scale agnostic. It has everything to do with the way you farm, and much less to do with the scale which you farm. It's about effectively understanding that microbes evolved plants to feed them, and only when we manage the land in such a fashion as that the microbiome is flourishing should we expect the plants to do well, and then we have the nutrition be there. So you can have a backyard garden which has a very poorly functioning microbiome and low quality food, and you can have a very large scale farm that's not organic and have high quality food. So it really does not connect to scale, to certification label or anything.
I just want to ask you another question which follows on with what I'm going to be asking Dusty. How do you get this message across?
Our idea is to, and we've already built the functioning prototype version, is to give people the ability to, effectively with their smartphones, flash a light at the carrot or the milk or the beef or the apple at point of purchase and discern this is the 20th percentile, this is the 40th, or this is the 80th.
Yeah.
Our thought is, let's give people the tools in their hands, 1 in 1,000, to go out and get those readings in real time, upload that onto the, social, and let it go viral. So, thank you.
Dusty, you've heard his response there. Investors typically look at ROI. Can you give me what metrics you would want to present to the world when people look at ROI?
Absolutely. And when we talk about ROI, I think when we talk about investing in nature protection or regeneration and ROI, we can talk about financial ROI, but also impact ROI. And I want to focus on the second one because that's the reason why we're investing in nature in the first place. So what's the point otherwise? And regarding that, I think there's a huge opportunity every time somebody goes out and protects nature, protects our planet. There's a story that people want to hear. And there's an opportunity to inspire, to create a ripple effect and inspire people to also go out and do things, to share a positive message that can spark more action. And this is really at the core what we are doing. And we have been seeing that across everything that we have been doing. So we are now doing one rewilding mission with somebody on the ground per month. We're just putting out one video per month. We're reaching 200 times more people on YouTube organically than WWF and Greenpeace combined. That's because we integrate storytelling at the core of our operation throughout everything that we do. And so that is a huge unused lever that everybody in nature protection should take a page out of our playbook, because it means you can educate millions about the ecosystems that are most threatened on our planet and the solutions.
Great. You have 3 potential stories up here sitting on the panel that you should definitely get on. Yaniv, one of the things I would like to ask you is, apart from your investors that we talk about, what would be the most ideal non-monetary partnership that would help you scale and get this message across or strategy?
Well, by using our unique technology, we can actually create value across the entire value chain. So both farmers, owners benefit, and the consumers themselves. But not only economically, as you put it, but also there are environmental effects and societal. Sorry, and we're actually actively looking for partnerships with the global south. And in those regions, we can actually offer great value for farmers, farm owners, and benefit from access to data that would make our technology actually more accurate, which we can then use in other areas where economic benefit is the highest driver. So then you would actually be seeing a synergy where the global south would benefit from the technology that is developed and powered by the increase of direct economic value, paying back, so to speak, with data that create a positive feedback loop.
Great, fantastic. Dusty, following on this one, impact investing is very difficult, especially from the investor perspective. What would you want investors to know, potential investors or even existing investors, to know about where you are, how you're scaling and monetizing?
Mm-hmm. So I think the key to impact investing is really having quantitative metrics associated to it. The more vague they are, the more greenwashing that can fall into it. So having very quantitative facts that come into this. So specifically for our company, how many carbon emissions reductions can we have? How many gigatons can we foresee? How in the future does that scale up? And if you are to scale manufacturing and production and going to market, what levers are you doing to de-risk to actually achieve that at scale?
Got it. Dan, I have to follow this question with you. It's not a question you may not like. You're so science heavy, right? There's going to be a lot of skepticism around this area. How do you convince investors or potential partners about accelerating food revolution?
I was trying to convince people a long time ago. I think there's enough inherent demand and drive from people because of effectively their own personal health journeys. We're 3 generations into what we now call conventional agriculture, which is chemistry intensive, which is correlated with a dramatic decrease in nutrient levels in food, which is correlated as well with a dramatic increase in chronic disease. So there's a absolutely potent visceral demand in the populace for food that actually provides sustenance. And so, yeah, I don't think that marketing or convincing is part of our objective. We don't need to do it because nature is taking care of that. Our work is to actually make sure that the science is rock solid so that when instrumentation's out there, it could pass any, skeptical muster.
Great. Dusty, can you share with us really briefly one of the most compelling stories that you've shared? And what were the metrics to say this was bloody impactful?
Yes. Happy to. Maybe one that comes to mind immediately is a project we did in Tanzania with Masulu, who is protecting elephants with the help of bees. Right. It turns out elephants are afraid of them. And so all that you need to do to gently nudge them away from human settlements where there's the risk of violent human-wildlife conflict is a fence of beehives that we created with them along a crucial wildlife corridor in the Serengeti. And that is such a beautiful solution because it's a natural solution, first of all. So these are wild bees, and it just keeps the elephants away while all other animals can still cross underneath. And it also creates an opportunity for a local women's cooperative to harvest the honey. So there's also that aspect to it, the social and wildlife solution. So these are kind of stories that we love to tell. But I also want to say that there is a story everywhere if you tell it right. We had a mission in Montana recently with American Prairie, who are restoring the grasslands of Montana. And they told us, well, good luck making people care about grass. It's one of the most boring things in the world for most people. And I said, I disagree. We did a video with them, and it has now been seen by over 1 million people. So it's all about how you tell the story. And every time somebody's restoring nature, there's a story that people want to hear.
Fantastic. Yadev, you're in the forefront. We see you in Boston, where you're in Davos. You've got a lot of experience. I've got to ask you this question. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever heard about sustainability? One.
All this, so okay, so I would say that the worst advice was do it because you must save the planet. Let's get rid of methane. Let's get rid of burps. And we don't care about farmers, just, see how we can focus on the sustainability issue alone. And the reason this was a bad advice was that in order for sustainability to be sustainable, you need to tie it together with everybody else's incentive. You need to align incentives. And when we discovered that we can eliminate to 60% of the methane emission from cows, which is the largest source of carbon emission, we can eliminate it and at the same time increase significantly the dairy productivity. And if we're talking about very significant numbers, up to 10% increase in productivity, which is huge for the farmers. And by the way, not just dairy, also beef. It's basically energy. So instead of saying there is a problem with methane, maybe get rid of the cows, we don't know, let's find some drastic solution. Instead of saying this, you're focusing on aligning incentives and figuring out how you can solve both problems for everyone, then this becomes sustainable because now farmers say, hey, don't convince me that I need to cooperate. I want this solution because I can actually benefit from it. So yeah, we're also saving the planet. Why not? So now everybody's happy.
Great. Dusty, you're a young gentleman. You've looked at, you're doing what you're doing. If I give you $1 billion today, where would you invest it? Cryptos or sustainability? And if it's sustainability, what area?
Probably not crypto for me, but
Not even the Trump token?
probably not the Trump token. For me, likely it would be a lot of the pieces of the supply chain that go into some of these new movements, whether it's electric vehicles, it's the materials that go into that. Because as you walk down the whole supply chain, a lot of those supply chains are going to have to change as technologies and the products change later in the value chain. So as those change, you're going to see a lot of different disruption at different pieces of those value chains. And what you've also seen in the world too, geopolitically, is that certain countries have latched on to certain pieces of that value chain and leveraged it to be a very powerful stance in the world. So I think it's a very interesting space to leverage some of the geopolitical, the government side of things to disrupt certain industries.
Dan, I have to ask you this. What's the boldest sustainability prediction you would make for the next 10 years?
Well, I would say that we have everything we know everything we need to know to be able to reverse climate change and chronic disease in 5 years. I think these are entirely accomplishable objectives. They simply require concerted effort.
I've asked you this again. What keeps you optimistic, third eye? And it's a world full of challenges out there. Right? So what keeps you optimistic about what you see?
And it's a really good question. And I think it's really, and just, I have the privilege to interact with so many people that really don't have the time to overthink about all the ways that this could go wrong or that we are effed. So they just go out every day, get their hands dirty and do things. And what we realize is putting their stories out is that we get messages daily from people that are writing us to say, this is the news they're longing for because it snaps them out of their own problem paralysis when we talk about the multiple crises that we're facing. It gives them hope. It reminds them that we have the power to fix things, and even inspired them to do their own things, from backyard rewilding to million-dollar projects that all come out of just coming out of overthinking, seeing people can do things and we can do things. And so we can't solve anything by overthinking. We can only solve things by acting.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a pretty difficult question. I want each of you to answer this if you can. What is the biggest moonshot idea you've come across that you wish came to fruition? Same question to all of you. In general, or what do we do? Even if it's what you do, yeah, or even in general.
Okay, so actually, we started by trying to help farmers optimize their cows' digestion and so on. And we do it by analyzing the microbes that exist within the cow rumen. And we developed a unique technology that is based on AI that can create a unique fingerprint of the rumen microbiome, allowing us to predict which additives, which drugs, which kind of foods are going to take effect. And what we realized earlier this year was that we can most likely take the same approach to the human realm. So we can actually use this unique set of AI techniques in order to create this encompassing genetic model that would allow us to predict drug efficacy, to predict diseases on people as well. And we're now in the process of testing it, and I find it actually crazily exciting for us. I think it can change the world.
Great. Dusty, same question.
Well, beyond flexible solar panels, of course. So, and I would say fusion energy. I think it's a
Cold or what kind of fusion energy? Or better be going.
mainly because I mean it is a long shot, but the opportunity of how much clean power that can generate. Plus, it is an amazing case study of deep hardware tech that requires challenging finances from blended capital from different sources, public-private partnership to coalitions throughout global working together, and really just technical uncertainty. So I'm rooting for fusion.
Good. I'm in the same camp, cold fusion. What are you asking?
A moonshot. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see every person on the planet have tenure to their own piece of land.
Fantastic.
I think if every family, if every human had 1 hectare or even half a hectare, that they don't even have to be able to sell, just was their right to live on and live a simple life, that would profoundly shift the dynamics of our culture in a very positive fashion.
Can I just ask you another question related to that? I really love your idea of that, because one of the visions I saw was not everyone can have land, especially I live in the United Kingdom where land is scarce. So
there's plenty of land, actually.
There is land, but it's not open.
But that's the opportunity. We have an opportunity as citizens in democracies to say, as a foundation to what we think is a right way to live, we should each have a piece of land.
Make it realistic. People who live in cities like London or part of New York, how do they do it? How would they do it? Is the way that you
it like us, it's actually called a dacha, and it's part of the constitution of Russia. Is that anybody who wants a dacha simply goes to the government and says, I want a dacha, and the government gives them one. So it's the right of everyone to have a piece of land. You can still live in the city if you want, but you have the opportunity to have a place where you can live a simple life. Yeah. So for me, I think if we could facilitate that, it would shift the incentives in a lot of people's lives and empower the simple dramatically.
I love it.
And there's plenty of land on the planet to accomplish it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Final question.
I think the big thing that needs to happen in the next 10 years is to make biodiversity protection the #1 priority. And the reason why that hasn't happened yet largely is a lack of understanding and data, because biodiversity is such a complex problem to put into kind of in data and really understand. And you can't improve what you can't measure. And an advantage of carbon and that focus is that it's a single thing that you can fairly easily measure in the atmosphere, because it disperses, it's everywhere by one number. And that has been an advantage But for biodiversity, it's much more complex because it's very, per definition, complex food webs, etc. And now we're launching a pioneer project in the Carpathians, one of the last virgin forests in Europe, right? We don't talk about it enough. We talk a lot about how to protect the Amazon, but in Europe, our own last virgin forests are being logged like crazy, and it's a big problem. And we are putting down new AI-powered devices in rooftops. So in tree canopies and treetops. We're sending tree climbers up into the tree canopy, put newly developed devices there that have AI processors on there, that have their own power source via solar and that are internet connected, and they have a bioacoustics microphone, and they can create a full profile of the biodiversity in that region by processing the different profiles of bird species, etc., everything that you can hear, connecting that with databases, and then extrapolating what the entire food web is because of the species that you can hear. You can extrapolate the food sources, there must be other species, and so on and so forth. And then you use satellite data to extrapolate that to even larger areas. And then you can get a very detailed understanding of where we stand in biodiversity. And we can even use it to detect illegal logging because it's also a sensor for chainsaws. And so we can use law enforcement, etc. And so we're on the verge of a revolution technology that will finally allow us to measure biodiversity over long distances and timeframes as we have never been doing before. And this is a moonshot project to now scale this around the globe.
Fantastic. Well, Paddle, thank you so much for enlightening all of us, and best of luck. And I think you've got an opportunity to get involved with them and also to partner. I see a lot of synergies here as well. Best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.